As Albert mentioned, I'm in the Windows Phone Design Studio. Don't use this hashtag, use LXDBadHouse. And I've actually only been in the studio now for about 5 months. So I'm pretty new to the studio. So there's tons of Metro thinking that's gone on before I showed up in that little square at the end. But Metro actually is what brought me to the studio. I was working at Fraud Design, and I saw Windows Phone. I kind of poked and prodded at it a little bit, and I got pretty inspired by it. And so inspired that I ended up joining the team. So the reason I want to say that right up front, my teammates are back there dancing. The reason that I want to say that right up front is I'm about to disagree, seemingly, with a lot of the concepts that we're talking about tonight. And that's not true exactly. I'm going to sound like I'm being critical. It's more that I believe in this stuff so much, I don't want us to mess it up. I think we're really onto something here with all the ideas, but I think that if we don't communicate it correctly to the mainstream, we can kind of fumble it. So when you see me up here like disagreeing with Mike, who's my manager, it's not a straight disagreement as much as me caring very deeply about this stuff and wanting to get it right. And it all starts with a pretty simple idea. The idea that these great designs aren't going to take us all the way there. I don't think showing somebody a really fantastic design necessarily means success. It's sad, but it's true. The thing that's more sad than that, actually, is that beauty can even get in the way. Now, that seems weird. Things that are good are therefore good. If something is beautiful, that seems like that's good, right? Well, just as a quick example of sort of where context really matters, Lady Gaga is a fantastic celebrity. She's a lot of fun to watch. She's really innovative in the way she approaches fame. But put her in a different context. Let's say you're in a courthouse and you wanted a lawyer who could, make sure that everybody knows how innocent you are, and you can't afford one, so the courthouse signs you one, like they do. And here comes your public defender now. Lady Gaga coming out of bed. Now, this kind of thing is really great on stage because it's relevant there, but in the wrong situation, it can be a big problem. So, if you're out there thinking, actually, I think the idea of Lady Gaga being my lawyer sounds pretty awesome. I see some hands. Yeah, we're all designers here, and we think that way, and that's great, and that's why we do what we do. But I went looking, and how many designers are there really? And this statistic is actually how many designers graduate every year versus all the other degrees that people get. It's we're the minority. So I spent a really long time on a visualization of what that means. So we're in that pink dot. And the pink dot is really awesome. It's really great to have events like this. We inspire each other. We go on websites and we see really interesting ideas. We bring them into our own work. That's really awesome. So life in the pink dot is great, and that's why we're seeing all these great sites like there's Dribble, I really like Pinterest, Milkshake. These are all sites for people inside the dot. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fantastic, and I love these sites. But what do we do when we're asked to design for people who think this is really fantastic art? This is not a favorite within the art and design community, but the people that say, I don't know much about art, but I know what I like, they're buying this stuff. And then you show something like this. I love that this was in the previous presentation. A lot of people see this and they say things like, well, my kid could do that. That's just squares of color. Why is that art? And they're distrustful of it. It's not a matter of good design, bad design. It's a matter of how relevant it seems to people. So this chair is another good example. I went to art school, so my intellect says this is good design. My bony ass hates this chair. It's not relevant to me when I'm looking for something comfortable to sit in. And this, despite the fact that it's not great design, is what most people end up with. And what do when they're on that chair? They watch reality TV. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If people want to be entertained, they watch what entertains them. Every so often a show like Arrested Development comes out, which I love. I'm sure many people in here love it. But really, they were targeted at that pink dot. They got 3 seasons and then they were canceled. They never really got much of an audience, and that was a problem. This reminds me a little bit of when my dad played Walk on the Wild Side for me. I was a young kid. I thought it was the worst song I'd ever heard. Bored me to tears, but I'll tell you what, When Marky Mark did it, as a remake, I was all about that song. And again, you can say like, oh, you were a kid, you didn't have good taste. But Marky Mark is the one that got my money, so there's something to that. Now, this, you can even tie this in with politics. You know, in 2000, Al Gore was quote-unquote well-designed, in that he had a lot of experience and was really qualified. And you'd hope that that would get you in the White House. But he wasn't very good at communicating. He came off as pretty wooden. And so, George Bush's communications team actually nailed the design. His background wasn't well-designed, but his communication was spot on. He looked like the everyman. Democrats, never missing an opportunity to make a mistake twice, of course put up Kerry. Another guy who, you know, on paper, like, yeah, this guy's really qualified, he's got all this stuff, and he's a war hero. That's really great. Meanwhile, the Bush team, they just stuck with a good thing, and he looked like everyone. That was really relevant to people. A lot of people, when they're in the voters booth, they think things like, who do you want to have a beer with? And you can say that that sucks, and I think it sucks, but that's just how it is. So you have to understand that. The Bush communications team certainly did. Now, designers are just natural communicators. That's what we do. And we all know that. Design is communication. Something that I don't think we think about enough, though, is that communication is itself political. It's not good enough just to say, like, this is a high-quality product, now buy it, because I'm the best. That doesn't take you all the way there. You have to think a step beyond just your great design. Now, Bill Clinton, in this massive photo, I'll tell you, he actually had the brains of an Al Gore, but he could actually relate to the common man. That made him really special. But he didn't get there by accident. He was actually famous for taking speeches and taking out all the big words and revising way down. And he would write in the margins with his speechwriters every single time, fewer words. Because he was smart enough to know that a big word, right at the moment he was trying to make his point, distracts from the message, doesn't add to it. This is my own personal journey with this issue. This was heart-wrenching. It was 2005. By then I had been designing and developing on the web for 10 years, so I thought I knew a thing or two about design. And everyone in this room can look at this site and say, yes, that is a poorly designed website. And we wanted it to be designed well. This was not like a punch-the-monkey Viagra kind of website. This was actually helping people go to school. So we felt really strongly about increasing the conversion rate. So we went and we were like, all right, we're going to make some changes. We're going to do some visual design changes. And this is where my superpower came in. I have the ability, you're going to be very jealous when I tell you this. I have the ability, if you give me 5 mock-ups, I will choose the one out of 5 that will make your company the most money, which is a pretty cool skill to have. And here's how I do it. What I do is I go and I write the design that I like the most, all the way down to the one that I like the least. So in this case, I like design D. And here's what you do. You flip the list. The design that I think is really gaudy, because it's all wrong and the layout is wrong and it just doesn't work, that's the design that will do really well. And if you let me be in charge of visual design, but you don't give me access to users, I will put you out of business within 3 years. So that's my superpower. Now this is the site that I just showed you a second ago. By the time I left this company, this is the redesign we did. It didn't look exactly like this, but this is more in the direction. And we were really proud of it visually, because we felt like, you know, it was a little bit more like a magazine, we could show you more stuff. There was a lot about it that we really liked. And we ran the numbers, some things better, some things worse. It was kind of a wash, despite a year of effort to try to improve things. That was depressing. Meanwhile, a competitor, we used to go to this site and laugh at it, because like, they had the same code base as us, just a different design. And we thought, they're so bad, they're not doing a redesign, they're probably failing. Well, our CEO went and talked to their CEO. Turns out they were doing twice the conversions that we were. And so we just bought them out, because we couldn't figure out how to recreate this. So through all this, I got really cynical about design. I used to think that you start with a bad design, it's down here, and you do everything you can to lift it up. And if you get high enough, then people will drop to their knees and say, yes, that is great design, and everyone will agree. What I started to realize is actually, no, that's a little bit like saying, okay, I'm going somewhere where no one speaks English. How do I communicate with a non-English speaker? Ooh, I know. I'll speak loudly, I'll use fantastic grammar, and I'll speak slowly. And if I do it really, really well, maybe then they'll get English. And I think that's what a lot of people sometimes do with design. Sometimes you're just missing entirely, and it's not about polishing the design to be better. It's about making your design more relevant. So, I'm not actually saying right now, like, okay, let's all just make bad designs and then everyone will love us and we're done. Not at all. There are millions of opportunities for designers to actually make great design that is relevant to the task at hand. Millions of them. They're all over the place. Even in the mainstream, like movies. So, you know, these two movies, they're going for very different audiences, and that's fine. They're both true to their audience. Transformers is going for, you know, summer blockbuster. Helvetica is designing within the pink dot. And that's fine. They're not in a zero-sum game. I've sent money to both of these studios, and in both experiences, I knew what I was getting into, and it was fine. But, just a little exercise. What if this was a zero-sum game? What if every person who went to see Transformers had to sign a contract that said, I promise I won't see any other movie for 2 years? All of a sudden, it's not okay to be a small indie movie that only some people want to see, because you're going to have some trouble. If people see Transformers, they won't see Helvetica. Which brings me to my work in the Windows Phone Design Studio. I think this is the better design by far. I don't think by this, I'm pointing to Metro right now. I don't think there's any question. The things that you can do with a design like this, as has been discussed in the previous presentations, are vast. What Android is trying to do is so, you know, last century. And yet, right now, people think that this is great, just like they think certain paintings are great, even though the design community disagrees. So this is a real concern for me. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. But I have a confession about this. It kind of complicates matters a little bit. When I first saw Metro, it was something like this. It was like some Engadget photo. It wasn't in my hand yet. And I saw that, and I, as a guy who went to art school, I should say, I thought, okay. It's interesting, yes. It is not trying to imitate Apple, and that's fantastic. I could intellectually give it a lot of credit, but it kind of left me feeling cold. I thought it was kind of elitist. It was kind of distancing. And so if you were going to ask me to rate it, I would say, you know, there's the iPhone, higher is better. I probably would have put it about there. Android, by the way, is like 30 feet underground. I really don't know Android. So the studio was here, but yet now I work in the studio. So what happened? Well, they were able to prove a couple things to me through being relevant. I went and I started looking at, okay, what does an app look like in the iOS world that I'm used to, and in this world. And this screenshot to me said it all. Wow. Like, you're focusing on the content above all else? That just looks better, period. I mean, the things I care about are larger. There isn't so much Chrome, you don't need it. To me, that pretty much sealed the deal. So I looked at some other stuff. Same with Netflix. You know, I don't really like the visual design so much, but just the idea that instead of going with the drill down all the way a lot of iOS apps do, and it was showing the content instead, that was very exciting to me. And then I looked at Flickr, where it was actually kind of sending me through all these photos, and I was like, wait, what does Flickr look like on the iPhone again? Oh yeah, that. Because a lot of iOS apps are just really into this kind of drill down thing, and not trying to be emotional and interesting right from the get-go. So I thought, that's really interesting. So they kind of got me up here. I started thinking, all right, okay, Windows Phone and iOS, they're about the same. They do different things better. You know, one does this, one does that. I'm ready to say that it's about even. I'm no longer down here. But it took me some time to get there. It didn't get there in a couple minutes. I didn't get there in a couple days. It actually took me a couple months to get there. And that was a lot of time for, you know, the product to win me over. So then I went and I got a Windows Phone in my hand. I bought it, and I went and I wanted to see, okay, what does my content look like on the screen? So I typed in my Google information, my Facebook information, and I don't have a good slide for it. It wasn't about, oh, they used great typography. That was a great sort of secondary thing. But as I looked down, I saw my friend's contacts start filtering in. Ooh, there's a picture of my wife. I didn't have to choose it, I just got it from Facebook. Pinned it to the home screen. I went into photos. Well, I hadn't taken any photos because it's a brand new phone, but it was sucking down photos from Facebook of my friends. And I all of a sudden thought, okay, I can see how this phone matters to me. And it did not get me through typography, or the use of grid, or anything else. It was when it proved itself to be relevant. And then I ended up here. In the so awesome that people change jobs to work in the product. So here's the warning. For everybody out here, many of us, I assume, do product design. This is the danger zone, obviously, and this is pretty great. There's two main things I want to call out. Here, you're losing people. You can't stand with a great design and not prove its relevance and expect to do well in the marketplace. You're losing people here, so reduce this as much as you can. However, there's good news. Once you prove the relevance, this approach to interface design allows so much more interesting stuff that real people care about, not just designers. So you can end up way above iPhone. And I'm not exaggerating this graph. I really do love the experience more than the iPhone, where I went back and I just saw a grid of icons. It didn't feel very relevant anymore at all. Now the good news is, all the stuff that we're saying today, it's not like we're the first people to come up with this. It's actually gotten a little bit of momentum. And it's kind of cool to see how they've done. Flipboard, if you think of that graph, Flipboard was able to say very quickly in the process, here's how relevant we are. Type in your credentials and we will make a magazine of your life. That's the whole point of Flipboard. People love it. It's because they get into the relevant area quickly. The flip is now dead. But before it was dead, it wasn't so much about giving you your content in the sense that it was pulling things down from Facebook, but it was able to say, look, you don't need 5,000 features, you need 5, and we're going to do them really, really well. And people actually went for it. So this is a great example of this actually working, despite the fact that Cisco then, for some reason, killed it. And then the Kindle as well went through this. At the very beginning, people couldn't understand, why would I spend so much money for something that doesn't have that much selection? The original Kindle was a lot uglier than this. It just didn't feel that relevant. It felt like something just like some geek dude would install just to try it out. But now, as everybody knows, the Kindle is used by many people. People are fanatical about it because Amazon did such a great job, not just of the design, but of selling it by making it seem relevant. And so, I'm really excited when I see a lot of blog posts talking about this stuff. I'm really excited about the turnout tonight. This is amazing. So we have the manifestos, we have the ideas, we have the ability to express these ideas, because that's really what we're good at. And I think all we need to do now, if we take our manifesto and we bring along the people, well, then we can have ourselves a proper revolution. Thank you very much.